Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat. I'm Zach Greenberg, your host, a Robert Justice H. Jackson Legal Fellow at FIRE, and I'm joined by Bill Rickards from the Communications Department, Gordon Danning, our History Outreach Fellow, and Jackie Farmer from our Individual Rights Defense Program. Today, we're going to talk about something we don't talk about a lot at FIRE, which is high school students. Both of these recent free speech controversies have to do with high schoolers. First, we have a state university refusing to display artwork because it is too controversial, because high schoolers might see it. And secondly, we have many colleges that are not going to consider the discipline that high schools inflict upon their students for protesting peacefully. Jackie, let's start with you. So what happened here at Polk State University? Yeah, so at Polk State, Professor Sirhat, who we've actually had cases with before, he was turned down, or his art submission was turned down for a faculty art show. The art depicts on one side, or on the top, I believe, more pornographic images cut out and with Trump and other politicians' faces placed over the porn actors' faces. And then the bottom half has more like writers and more positive figures and a more appropriate, happy scene laying out. And yeah, I take this case very personally. I have lots of feelings because it really underestimates high schoolers' abilities to critically think, and it's missing out on a teaching moment on art history, which is a topic that not a lot of high schoolers get to interact with. And like speaking from my public high school level knowledge of art history, this piece like really speaks to me because it has so many like influence that are easy to pick up on. Like, I mean, I don't know what Sirhat's actual intentions were with this piece, but you know, you can see influences from, I'm going to say this wrong, Hieronymus Bosch's Gardens of Earthly Delight, where on one side, you know, there's like debauchery and madness and like hell, and on the other side, it's all happy and like good people, and also his Paradise and Hell diptych, which is a little bit closer to what this is. And also there's a lot of pop art influences because of the collage aspect, the use of popular images to convey a simple political message. And also, you know, I think high schoolers can handle the images in this artwork because we've been we've been experiencing a media culture around Trump that has a lot to do with, you know, sex and his words regarding sexual activities, which, you know, these students have absolutely heard. And at this point, like, you know, you're very much underestimating what high schoolers can put up with in this context. The artwork was, in the name of the artist, was supposed to provoke debate and exhibit the moral corruption and moral dichotomy of our political leaders. And when the university saw this artwork, they said that we should not display it because high schoolers may potentially look at the artwork, they may look at it and say, I'm offended by this, I can't be exposed to this, and FIRE wrote a letter to the university about this. And what did that letter say? What was our main argument here? Our main argument was mostly, you know, that you cannot judge an art by its content. And, you know, if that was laid out in the rules for when the faculty were, you know, submitting their artworks, that would be one thing, but there were no, you know, stipulations like that laid out. And, you know, the fact that it's offensive is, you know, that's part of art. Like, that's the entire
supposed to be offensive.
Point. It's supposed to provoke people and incite debate and discussion. And Gordon, I know you worked with high school students previously. You taught high school students. What do you make of the university's rationale here?
You know, I don't really buy it. I'm not going to talk about my, you know, experience with high school students. God knows they've seen plenty of, you know, similar images. But when I was in high school, years ago, I went with a school group to New York, and we saw a play called Bent on Broadway, which was with Richard Gere. It was about gays in Nazi concentration camps. It was excellent. But the very first scene, maybe 3 minutes into it, this guy walks all the way across the stage, and it was a big stage, stark naked, okay? And, you know, and my teacher, I remember, was sort of upset that she had not been sort of forewarned that this might be there, right?
I see that.
But I don't think anyone would have suggested, we should shut down the play because high school students might go see it. you can have warnings. You can say this teachers, you should prepare your students beforehand before you go in. But the idea that, you should shut down an artistic display because high school students might see it and be offended is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and I thought the statement from the people that actually shut it down, this is what they actually said. After review by the gallery committee and the gallery administrator, there's two of them. There's two separate people that can shut you down.
Yeah.
It was agreed upon that your piece, Death of Innocence, should not be displayed because the college offers classes and volunteer opportunities to our collegiate charter high schools and other high schools in Polk County, and we feel that this particular piece would be too controversial to display at this time. So, I mean, it's like, what they might just wander in, and then that's going to be the problem. Or if you're going to bring your high school students there, I mean, like you were saying, Gordon, wouldn't it be better to have or like what Jackie was saying with the teaching moment, is that, you get a little forewarning, you give them like some sort of navigation into what they're going into.
Yeah, and this entire situation is even more ironic given the name of the piece, Death of Innocence, when you're like, okay, so you don't want high schoolers to see this, and it's all about their innocence. It's ridiculous.
And this is a college campus. It's fully bound by the First Amendment, and it should protect offensive speech, allegedly offensive speech. And I think the funny part here is that the university treats its students as children. It's pretty much saying that because you guys are not, I guess, mature enough to see this artwork, then we should ban it. And these students, they can vote, they can serve in our armed forces, they can't drink, but they do it anyway, as we all know, on a college campus. And they can certainly see artwork because they have the full array of free speech rights. Going to our next issue, which is how many colleges, in the wake of the recent school shooting, are seeing high school students seeing protests against gun violence, for gun control, and at least one high school has threatened to discipline all students who participate in these protests. So what do we have to say about that?
We've seen this come up just in the past week. First, there were all these walkouts that were being organized, and I think there's a number of them. One's happening on 420, one's happening later this month. And the 421, I think, was to commemorate the Columbine shooting. And these are protests that are going to be, some of them are in the form of walkouts by high school students in order to protest gun violence. Right. And I know at least one school district, I think in the Houston area, threatened that with disciplinary action, any students that would walk out. And so in sort of response to this, we've seen a number of colleges release statements over the past week saying, hey, listen, this won't affect your admissions process. If you guys get in trouble or get some disciplinary action taken against you for walking out for these gun violence protests. And they've sort of done that, which is great.
It is great.
And it's great. And I want to say that that's awesome that some of these colleges are doing. But
by focusing on the good here, I think we should just commemorate these colleges saying that, look, we're...
Screenshot all these statements.
Yes.
I'm glad that they're making these statements.
They're coming out for free speech. They're recognizing that high school students have free speech rights and that they can go out and peacefully protest, which I think is something that we should commemorate here at FIRE. But there's a big but here.
There's a big but there.
What is the problem with many of these schools, though?
So many of them have speech codes on their own campuses.
They do.
That are awful. Or at least they've had incidents within the past few years that have been just like, okay, so we had the associate vice president at DePaul came out with a statement talking about basically the same thing, like your admissions won't be affected if you get in trouble for protesting gun violence. Well, DePaul, just to give you guys background for people who might know that are watching at home, they've been on our top 10 worst colleges for free speech list so many years in a row that we had to create a separate category for them. That's the Lifetime Censorship Achievement Award.
We did.
We had to because they just kept showing up on the list. And just a few things. Here's a few things that DePaul did. In 2005, DePaul refused to allow protesters criticizing controversial professor Ward Churchill because those were posters that the people were putting up because they were propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
What do we got? 2013, they charged a student with conduct violations for identifying students that had vandalized his group's pro-life display on campus.
It's ridiculous.
So that was a kid that had his display vandalized, and then found out who did it and told administration, and then he got slapped with a penalty. He got slapped.
He did, not the accusing students.
I don't know how that works out. A student organization criticizing marijuana laws was denied recognition because the university disagreed with its message.
So the irony here is that the students get to the college and they say, oh, this university that protects free speech, they didn't consider this peaceful nonviolent protest discipline application process. And when they get there, they get hit with these egregious speech codes that prohibit a wide range of protected speech on a college campus. And that's a bit problematic.
Yeah, and Fordham University also released a statement saying that they wouldn't punish current students or future students who get in trouble for protesting. And that one is just all kinds of insane or frustrating too, because they are currently, keeping a Students for Justice in Palestine chapter from being recognized because it's too polarizing. That's just insane that they're, coming out with these statements for certain kinds of protest, but not allowing students to organize around other issues that they're passionate about.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, it was last year that they reprimanded one of their students for that.
And aren't they still in a lawsuit about it?
Yeah,
they are legally fighting these students, saying that they should be kept off campus, which is bonkers.
It's totally antithetical to the First Amendment. Even Syracuse, they promised their students free speech. They say in the admissions process that this won't be held against them. Yet they've expelled a student for his Facebook posts, investigated a student for what he posted on social media, and they're also considered one of the worst schools of free speech as per our top 10 list a couple
Zach's
years
alma
ago.
Mater.
My alma mater, I have to talk about them.
He has to. He's legally obligated.
I am.
And for some reason to be a Patriots fan from New York, which we don't understand.
We don't understand.
We don't understand why that happens.
In my office, he's a champion for the common man.
And now he lives in Philadelphia.
The real underdog here in the story is Tom Brady. And so we have some good here, we have some bad here. I think one part about this is that the school that you mentioned in Houston, the school district, said that they would give students 3 days of out-of-school suspension for any protest whatsoever, which includes wearing an armband, which the Tinker case very clearly stated that public school students have the right to peacefully protest, to wear an armband. That case was about the Vietnam War, to protest without making, hopefully it does, without making a material disruption on the college. So we're talking about a high school violating the rights of students. Although, to be totally frank, 3 days out of school suspension doesn't sound that bad from a high school student. That's pretty much regular day senior year right there. And considering that with the assurances that the colleges won't actually take it out of my application process, it's pretty enticing to go out there and protest.
I'm glad the colleges are doing this because it's good to know that they're not going to reprimand students in their admissions and their applications for protesting. And it is good. It is good that we're seeing this. It is. And I wish that some of these colleges and universities would start realizing that you can't just make these statements during times when it's going to be good PR and it's going to be something that looks good, but real change and things that are going to last, like really freeing up your students to have freedom of expression and freedom of speech on campus. You've got to change your policies during times when it's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And it's, so we've got a lot of those. And also, we don't want to give high schoolers a false idea of what they're getting into on college campuses.
Yeah.
So they might think, oh, well, these universities are going to look out for my speech once I get there. But what it really comes to, what it really is some of their policies aren't that great once you get into these universities.
It's true. Many universities have speech codes, have free speech zones. And I think the kind of protest that the colleges are referring to here is really interesting. They're protecting protest against gun violence, against, I think the word is meaningful protest, which is good, but at the same time, we should be protecting all protest against any topic.
It reflects a value judgment on the issues, which is, something especially public colleges should not be, engaging in.
Yeah, and I think one of the schools, and I can't remember which one, explicitly said something like, it might be different if you're a alt-right protester or I can't remember their exact language, but it did sound like they were maybe making an exception for this particular type of protest, but maybe other protests not so much that they personally disagree with. So it's, like Bill said, I think it's, it's more PR than any sort of like dedication to, free speech principles.
Which is a bit of an issue because you should be able to protest against whatever you want. I mean, we see Fordham with the pro-Palestinian students, even the Tinker case in the 60s against the Vietnam War. And I would like to know whether if a student come out and said, I'm an NRA member, I believe we should arm teachers, would that protest be okay? If the student was disciplined by their high school for that protest, would the colleges still not consider that an application process? I don't know.
I mean,
they should, though.
It might be, but we should also remember the fact that speech that and protests that aren't popular or speech that isn't popular is sort of what needs protection. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get college administrators sort of like reprimanding you or giving you discipline for things that are sort of accepted and everybody sort of agrees with. It's the type of speech that is outside of the norm and really controversial. Otherwise, it wouldn't need protection. And that, that's what these are aimed for. So I hope that they can. I like that all of these colleges are making statements. It's good. It's a good first step.
Exactly.
And I'm glad. I'm glad that they're doing it. But I hope to see them keep this up.
Yeah,
I mean, this would be great.
Keep it going. Keep the momentum going.
Yeah, if they really care about this and they really want to commit to supporting students' rights to demonstrate, then just keep going with it.
Yeah.
Why stop there?
And the ironic part is that college students actually have a greater amount of free speech rights than high school students do here. So to see the colleges recognize the high school students, but not their own students, it's really deeply ironic. And that's something that we hope to change because we have many situations where high school case law is actually applied to college students, which is bad for the college students. That pretty much diminishes their rights. So we'd like to see the colleges change their policies. We'd like to see them continue to recognize that high school students still do have rights. And when they get to the college, that their rights will be protected and hopefully encouraged by the college, which should directly protect the rights of all students to protest whatever they want to do. All right, that's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in.